In this video, we explain how dog e-collars work. Our demo features dog training collars from the eCollar Technologies Educator Series, the Mini and Micro Educators.
So what we're going to be talking about today, this is just a quick video on the e-collar, the Mini Educator. There's also a similar version to this by e-collar. It is the Micro Educator. And I just wanted to explain real quickly the difference between the two. One of the things that you'll see that the regular e-collar, the 300, goes 1/2 of a mile remote. So if your dog is 1/2 mile or less from you, it will communicate with your dog. The Micro Educator, one of the things that it differs is that it only goes 1/3 of a mile. So if your dog is 1/2 mile away, it's not going to receive the connection. Okay, there's another big difference also, and that has to do with the actual collars themselves. Do you see there's a pretty significant size difference between these two collars? This one is a lot heavier than this one, and I mean in general it's more compact. And another thing about this one, the Micro Educator, not only does it go a shorter distance, the oomph on it is less. So for instance, the vibration is very, very minor versus this one that has a stronger vibration. And then the same thing goes with the stimulation, that these are stronger than these Micro Educators. So in general, if you have a small dog or a very sensitive dog, then you want to go with the Micro Educator. So small sensitive dogs are the Micro Educator. And then just your normal dogs and good sized dogs, they can use these bigger ones. But in general, I'll be honest, I try to get as many dogs as possible just on this Micro Educator. One of the reasons, if the dog is very sensitive, that's a great reason to have it on the Micro Educator. The only reason I would put a dog on a Mini Educator is if the range that it has to cover is bigger, 1/2 mile, or if your dog is just not as sensitive, especially with the vibration. When you're looking at the collar, you'll see here's the top when you have it on the dog, and you want to look over on the side and you'll see this little red dot. Okay, you want to match that red dot with the red dot on the transmitter. And so when you touch them together, and I'll try to do it where you can see it, it's currently on. I just turned it off. I'm just touching them to each other. I turned it on. I turned it off. Let's do that again. Turn it on. And you can see the green light. Turn it off. Okay. And all I'm doing is I'm touching these two red dots together. And this red dot here is a magnet. So all you have to do, if you don't have the remote in your hand and you need to turn this on, you can just grab a magnet off the refrigerator and that will turn this unit on. Once you have this turned on, the collar, all you have to do is put it on your dog. Okay, and what I was saying earlier about these collars, if you get the nylon collar, it comes with a buckle, so it's really easy to adjust it. But then once you have it adjusted to the right setting, like once you have it for your particular dog, it shouldn't change. So once you have it set, then all you have to do is use this quick release snap. And this is on the nylon collars. So when I just, rule of thumb, when I have a small dog, I will get them without the buckle because it's just more weight. And when I have a bigger dog, and a growing dog in particular, then I'll get the buckle. Okay. So once we have the collar turned on, and you turn it on with this little red dot, then you're all good to go. So let's see, make sure that I left this on. So let me put it this way. Oops. And now it's turned on because it flashed green. And when it's sitting here, let me get it adjusted the right way. You can see it flashing. Okay, you see that flashing? When it's flashing green, that means that it's fully charged. When it's flashing an amber color, that means that it's starting to lose its charge. And when it's flashing red, that means that it's out of charge. Okay. When you turn it on and off, it does a single flash of red. So now I turned it off, but you would see that red flashing over and over and over again, just like this green is flashing. You would see red flashing. Okay, so once you have your collar set, you can put that off to the side. So this is a mirror image, so sometimes I get a little confused at which way to go. All right, and so now I want to talk about this remote, the handheld transmitter. So this is what your remote looks like in the front, and this is what it looks like in the back. And then on one side, and then the other side. So you'll notice that there are a series of buttons on the back and on the sides. There are no buttons in the front. However, you can tell that your transmitter is off because there's nothing here. Okay. Also, you don't see anything flashing right here. Same thing when this is charged, it's green, goes to amber, and then it flashes red when it's almost out of charge, and then it'll just stop working. Okay. And the charge usually lasts, I would say, around 10 to 12 hours, as long as you don't turn on the lights, and I'll explain that. So to turn this on, so you'll see something here, you're going to use the buttons in the back. The buttons in the back say on, off, and light. So this big button in the back is for both on and off, and it's also for the light. Okay, and I'll show you how you do that. This little button has an M and a C on it. The M stands for momentary, the C stands for continuous. Okay, when you turn to the side of the transmitter or remote that has a single button, you'll notice that the button has a T on it. The T stands for tapping, and that is the vibration button. And it's the same side where you have that little red magnet. On the opposite side, you'll have two buttons, a black and a red one, and they both have S's on them. And that's to help you understand that that stands for stimulation. Okay. The knob up on top is for adjusting the stimulation and only the stimulation. So this knob is for adjusting these two stimulation buttons. The tapping button, the vibration mode, only has one level. So when you get the mini educator, that has a stronger vibration than the micro educator. That's one of the reasons that if the dog is super sensitive, I would choose the micro educator. If the dog is not that sensitive, even though it's a lighter weight dog and everything, it needs a stronger vibration. And this is just vibration. It's just like a cell phone vibration. But if it's a little bit stubborn and needs to have the bigger vibration, because you really want to rely more on the vibration and do the stimulation only through a training process or, a escape valve, an emergency valve where they're running after a deer or a bear or something like that. Okay. It's worth all the money in the world to get your dog to stop chasing a bear. Okay, so anyway, so let's go ahead and I'll first have to show you how to turn it on. So remember, oops, there is a button in the back and it even says on off. You need to hold this button in pretty strong and for at least 2 seconds for it to turn on. So I'm going to press my finger in and you're going to see what happens here. So I'm pressing in and oops, let's see, can you see that it's on? It's hard to see the number. Woo, that you can't see that. It says 7, but you can, oh, there it goes. So the light went off. But so you can see that it says 7. And remember I said that this button up here, this knob, will adjust the stimulation. So if I turn this knob, oops, it gets it really light again, but I'm going to start at, when the light goes off, you'll see that it's at the number 4. So I have to wait a second for that light to go off. While we're looking at it, you can see down here that the it's flashing green occasionally, indicating that it's well charged. But so you can see that there's a number 4 on here. And I'm going to turn it up and I'll go up to 31. Okay, so again, you can see that there's a light on, and if you were here, you could see that it says 31. So there it goes, the light went off. And so it says 31, and you'll notice that it says C. Okay, and I'm going to talk about why it says C on here. And then it also is flashing up here 1B. Okay, and I'll explain that later, why that is doing that. But so let's turn around. I'm going to turn this back down. Oops, and it always turns on that light. And I'm going to turn this back around, and I want to show you one other thing. Oh, so I showed you how to turn it on, and you have to press it in. To turn this off, you have to press it in for at least 3 seconds. So I'm going to turn this around, and you're not really going to see because that light turns on, but I'm going to start pressing this in. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, and then it finally said off. Okay, so you really have to press this button in, this big button where it says on and off. You have to press this in really hard and for a sustained couple seconds to turn it on and off. And there's a reason that you have to do that. I'm going to show you another great feature of this collar, and that has to do with the light. Okay, so first I have to turn this back on. So I'm going to turn it back on. 1 1000, 2 1000, and it's on. Okay, so once I have this on, and remember I had to really, let me get this over here, I had to press really hard on this to turn it on and off. So now I'm just going to tap it really gently and watch what happens to the collar. So I just tap it, and so it turns on the LCD light. And then if I tap this again, just really quick, now it's solid. It stays on all the time. Tap it again, and it turns the light off. So if you tap this button once, it makes a flashing LED light display. If you press it again really quickly, it makes it solid, and if you press it again really quickly, it turns it off. So how you press this button, this L button, if you press it in hard, you're either turning it on or off, and if you just tap it, it will turn on the lights. Okay, and that's why I mentioned that your collar should last about 10 hours maybe. However, if you turn on the lights by mistake and you don't realize that the light is flashing, especially if it's on stationary or solid, you're going to wear out the battery super fast. Okay, so on and off and light. This little button is M and C. Okay, and remember when I turned this around and I said that there's a C on here? Okay, that corresponds to the C back here. Oops. That corresponds to the C back here. Okay, hopefully you can see that. On the back, there's an L, and then this little one is M and C. Okay, So what that stands for, those only are concerned with the stimulation. Okay? So you can have it with a C, okay? And all these buttons toggle. I'm just going to press this little button in, and I have to press it in pretty hard actually, and it makes a sound. Did you hear that sound? So now when the light goes off, you will see that there is an M and a C in the, get rid of that. So now there's an M and M right there and a C right there, okay? So what that means is that on these two buttons over here, if I have to stimulate the dog with this black button, it will do it just momentary beep, like a stim, no matter if I hold this in for 3 hours, okay? It will just do a single individual vibration, or I'm sorry, stimulation. So with it being on momentary and continuous, this button is momentary, this button is continuous. So if you held this down for 3 hours, it would only do a single stimulation. If you held this down for, let's say, 3 minutes, we're not going to hold that down for 3 hours ever. You always just do it instantaneously. But anyway, if you held this down forever, it would keep stimulating. Okay? So you might say to yourself, oh gosh, I only want to keep it on the momentary. Well, actually, that's, I think, the wrong choice. So what I always do, and then you can put both of them on momentary. So then it's only a single little burst and a single little burst. It's too limiting. I'll just tell you, it's too limiting. Oops, I did the wrong thing. It's too limiting to keep it on momentary or momentary and continuous. So the reason I say that, so it's currently at 0. So I'll turn it up a little bit just so you can see. Oh, forgot that the light goes on. But it's at 5, and there's a little C after it. Okay, so you see the 5C. It looks like 5 degrees Celsius almost. Anyway, so what you can do is, this would do, if you just tapped it really quickly, if you just did a single burst, it would just do a single burst. And then if I held it in for 3 minutes, it would stimulate at level 5 for 3 minutes, okay? If I press the red button is an automatic boost. So if I press this black button, it does a 5 stimulation. If I press this other button, it does a 10 stimulation. It's already preset to do, you just boost the stimulation level by 5. You can adjust if you want to boost the stimulation level. Okay, you don't ever see it. I wouldn't be able to show you that it actually boosted to 10, but just believe me on that. But anyway, the reason that I tell people to have this on a C is because you can do momentary and continuous behaviorally. So I can just press on this real gently, like 1, tick, and that's a single stim. Or I can press it down for a second or 2, and it's a longer stimulation. If I press the red one, instead of being a 5, in this case it would be a 10. And I would do a single hit or a long stimulation, okay? So, and I'm just saying 5 and 10 because that's what I have this set at. If I cranked it and I set this at 50, this one would be 55. And like I said, you can preset your boost as much as you want. I really don't use that very much at all when I'm using, this is a single dog system. I just usually use the black one and just do that. But you can. I mean, some people use this for a safety valve. I had some clients who really upped this one just in case the dogs got into a fight. But then you have to be really careful not to hit that boost. Okay? So we've gone through how you turn it on with the big button and how you turn the lights on, the momentary and continuous, and those have just to do with the stimulation and why. The stimulation, you can change the number. It goes from 0 to 100, changing that knob. The vibration or tapping only has one setting. You don't change that at all. Okay, so that's always the same. Whereas these buttons on here, or the indicator on here, the knob, and these two buttons all have to do with stimulation. Okay, all right, so how you adjust the stimulation. This is currently at 5. I know it's going to show the light and you may not be able to see what this number is, but I'm just going to move this button. So if I'm moving this way, it goes up, and it's currently at 35. Okay, and let's see if you can see that. All right, so it's at 35, and there's a little C. The 1D that's flashing just means for one dog. You can use the same transmitter and get another collar and then have two dogs on the same collar. It actually works out quite great when you have two dogs if you're using it. But anyway, so this knob adjusts how much stimulation you get. If you press in this knob, if I press this in, and you're going to lose the light, but what it does is it sets the number. So it's currently at 35, and if I try turning the knob, I'll wait for this light to go off. So it's at 35, and probably the light's going to go on when I turn this. Yep. If I try changing this, you would see that the number's not changing. So, and I'm going to press it to unset it, and it's usually, you know, higher or lower based on what you did. But setting this thing, I don't really use it. I don't recommend using it. You know, depending on what you're doing, where you're going, you know, how you're training, and I'll do a video on, you know, kind of the strategy of using these collars. But you're never going to be a constant, always the same number. Okay. And so what will happen is that if you press this in accidentally, you won't be able to change this number. And so that's what more is likely to bother you about it, is that you're going to think that your transmitter is broken because no matter how much you turn this button, the number's not changing. And all you have to do is press this in and it will change back to being adjustable. This is the antenna, and it does unscrew. So you want to be careful and make sure that it doesn't get loose and it falls off. Okay. And you also, when you're using this, I mean, of course you can keep this in your pocket when you're not using it, but if you are using it, you need to have it out of your pocket and be out in the open, because you need this antenna exposed. Okay, so that's pretty much everything that's on this collar itself functioning. Oh, the only thing I need to explain is the charging. So right back here, you have this little, oops, gosh darn it. You have this little flip thing, okay? And you would stick the charger. Let's see if I can get a charger real quick. You will get, this isn't the actual charger, but you'll get a component that has these types of inserts. And so you just stick this inside the transmitter. And if it was actually plugged in, it would turn everything off. Okay. And then with the collar, this one's a little bit harder to find. So when you're looking at the back of the collar, so here's the top of the collar, here's the underneath side. If you look at the underneath side, there's this little thing right here. You just pull this up open. Okay, it exposes that. And then that's where you plug this in. Okay. And then, like I said, when you plug it in, this isn't actually plugged into anything, but when you plug these in, you don't have to turn anything off. It turns it off automatically. So you do have to turn things on, but you don't have to turn them off. So that's how this collar works. If you wanted to turn everything off instead of just letting it run, say you're camping or something and you're really limited on how much you have of your being able to plug it in, you turn off this remote by pressing this in, 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, and did you see how the light went off? It went off when I turned it off. Now that this is off, it doesn't matter if this is on or off, you can still turn your collar off. And if you remember, it's that little red dot, okay? And all I'm going to do, oops, let me change these, is touch this red dot. Oops, and you saw that light go off. And so that turns it off. All right, so this is for the, let me just get this box back, Mini Educator. Okay. And then the other one that I talked about is the Micro Educator. And if you guys have any questions about these, let me know. And I'll do another video talking more about how you actually, the strategy that you use using these e-collars instead of just how it works, and you know, that's that. All right, thanks for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
If this video is helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and please hit the subscribe button for more dog training videos from the dog's perspective.